Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in the gospel abroad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever they may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. Lord's will be edifying. Going into the times we're in, as there's been talks from, I believe this guy's name was what's his name, Stephen Miller, says White House considering suspending habeas corpus, which means in Latin, that's a Latin phrase actually, because you know that the language of the Roman Empire was pretty much Latin, right? Now, habeas corpus is Latin for saying, I believe it goes into having of the body, if I'm not mistaken, or you should have the body, which is basically the Latin phrase of habeas corpus. And, you know, I was looking at a couple of videos on TikTok, man, and
I would say that's an option.
He was going into it as well, but it was this one Jake basically trying to break down what habeas corpus mean. And this is why you niggas aggravate my spirit, man. Here, we've been going into this since I've come into the truth years ago. I've seen the apostles go into this, man. They broke it down. You know, they gave the proverbial breakdown on it, and they made it make sense. So I've been knowing about this for over 10 years, you know, but the apostles been going into this information since the early 90s. But yeah, you got a nigga, all of a sudden, now everybody wants to be scholars. Now everybody wants to be prophets, and everybody wants to know law, maritime law, and they want to know the ins and outs of this system, which this is nothing more but the Roman Empire all over again. And this is why you have what they call habeas corpus. Okay, the same laws and the same methods of grandeur according to Esau have been enacted out in the Roman Empire as well. But niggas kill me when they listen to a video or two, and all of a sudden they're experts on what the hell is going on in the world. When you niggas was just out literally smoking weed, being YNs, and playing Madden maybe a year ago. And everybody is just this top scholar when it comes to what this information means, man. I was looking at this nigga right here.
So habeas corpus being challenged at this point, them stating that they want to suspend habeas corpus has got to be one of the most craziest things, especially at a time like this where we already don't even get no justification for things that's getting done to our people. They already don't give a fuck about fighting the cases for us and our people, right? But habeas corpus is a legal fucking way of basically helping us get these cases that's brought upon us challenged. You get what I'm saying? And it's basically a legal principle that protects us against unlawful.
Yeah, you know, a nigga learn a couple of videos and all of a sudden now he's a scholar, right? Or she, whoever the fuck it is. But anyway,
this is genuine. We're suspending. Looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing. The Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not.
What do you think? It's all about intimidation. To put that out there, to put that out as a conversation piece for people to think that it may be for migrants, it may be larger than that. But Stephen Miller, I don't think he's a lawyer, and he clearly doesn't understand our history. I think we've only suspended habeas corpus maybe 4 times.
Right.
The last time, I think, was after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. There's the need to show that there's an invasion and also a threat to public safety. And so I don't think there are the necessary conditions to have that happen. But you also have to have Congress be engaged in the process. Lincoln, suspended habeas corpus, and it's a blot on his record. I think he did it while Congress was, I think, in recess, but I think it was affirmed ultimately by Congress there. So this is something that a non-lawyer, a zealot, an ideologue is putting out there, I think, for intimidation purposes as opposed to something that is ultimately realistic.
The Constitution is clear, and that, of course...
Yeah, and the thing of it is, they could suspend it in the case of an emergency. So in many ways, they're saying that they're being invaded from the southern border. So that's Trump's way of justifying suspending habeas corpus, which is another way of saying Jacob's trouble, or another way of basically being able to unlawfully detain you Jakes, which they don't really apply this rule anyway when it comes to Jake. You know how many Jakes are sitting in feds for constitutional violations, which proves that you're 3/5 of a man? The fact that somebody can say you did something and they could come and arrest you without any evidence proves that they don't follow law anyway, because according to the scriptures say, in the eyes or the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let it be confirmed. So in the Bible, you have to have a witness in order, unless you caught in an act, to be convicted of something, man, for the most part. Now, even if you murdered somebody, you got an eye testament or a witness, even then you could still challenge the jurisdiction, because it could just be your word against his. But oftentimes, if somebody's bringing an accusation against you, then there's a great possibility that you are guilty of it. But in this system, they will literally lock you up without having evidence, and then you have to await a trial date. And before you know it, you got to get an attorney, and then, you know, they've already inconvenienced you. So you done lost your job, you done lost your house, you know, you done lost your source of income. I mean, it's a fucking wicked system, you see. So this place is corrupt from top to bottom. But it says habeas corpus is a fundamental legal procedure that ensures a person detained by authorities can be brought before a court to determine if detention is lawful. But wait a minute, if I'm arrested, then I got to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? In some cases, you get arrested for a week before you go before a judge. That's off as hell. But it says it's often referred to as you should have the body, or you should have the body, reflecting the principle that individuals have the right to be physically brought before a judge to challenge their confinement. And a lot of times when you go before a judge, they already ruled you out as being guilty, because the law of the land is you're innocent until proven guilty. But in this case, if you are an Israelite, you are guilty until proven innocent. And in many cases, when you prove your innocence, you're still guilty. All right. So it says habeas corpus is a legal remedy that allows a person to challenge the legality of their detention, you know, appeals or whatever. It says it's a way to ensure that individuals are not unlawfully imprisoned or held without due process. But ask yourself, how many people have been wrongfully arrested and convicted in America, man? Especially among the Israelite Gensis. Huh? Exactly. But it says when a person believes they are being illegally detained, they can file a petition for habeas corpus. The petition is filed with the court, and the court will then order the custodian, warden, or sheriff to produce the detainee in court. It says once the detainee is brought before the court, the judge will review the reasons for their detention. And determine if it is lawful under law. Now, in most cases, these judges are corrupt anyway. So, like I mentioned earlier, it don't matter if you are innocent. In their mindset, you're guilty until proven guilty. Okay. But it says this can involve examining the evidence presented, questioning witnesses, and consider the detainee's legal arguments. It says if the court finds that the detention is unlawful, the person may be released from custody. But if the court finds the detention is lawful, the person may remain in custody. It says it is a crucial safeguard against arbitrary detention and is considered a cornerstone of individual liberty in many legal systems, including the United States. Well, why do niggas get locked up for child support there? You know? So this system is totally corrupt from top to bottom. All right? So let's go from here. There's Ezekiel 21. We'll come back there, because this is part of Esau's way of rolling on you tribes, man. Okay? He's at the point now that he's just ready to roll on you, because, I mean, they ain't got that much time. You see? But let's go from here to the book of Psalms 94. And let's start at verses 94, and let's start at verses 20. It says, should the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which framing mischief by law? Okay, and what's the throne of iniquity? This system, you know, this corrupt system. Because judges and lawyers are all bought and paid for. And the ones that do speak out against their cabal, they end up dead or assassinated. You know, most judges take bribes, man. And they all set up through these particular Masonic orders, man. They have their own particular or fraternal order that they set up over these judicial systems in certain precincts. And then you have certain, what do you call it? Not jurisdictions. It just skipped my mind, but fuck it, man. Anyway, it says, should the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which framing mischief by law? It says they gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. And this is what they do in court. This is why a lot of jakes sit in prison 40, 50 years and then they get exonerated. You know, That's wicked as all hell. Scriptures go into that, man. It says, whose slayers possess them and hold themselves not guilty. Matter of fact, let's go here. The scriptures go into the wicked should not be at all acquitted, because you're going to be held on trial for your punishments. But as long as we're under this devil's rulership, we got to be subjected to unjust dealings, man. And this is one reason why Trump wants to suspend it. Because not only the Northern Kingdom, he's been doing a good job on getting them out of here through ICE, but he wants to roll on you Jakes, man. Okay, Trump's ultimate hatred for the Israelites, going back into the time of Nero, he used to burn you alive in his fucking gardens, man. Put your heads on a stake and use you as night lamps. A burning corpse, man. And that hatred for this, and the hatred this devil got for our people is starting to resurface because Trump is showing his horns. And y'all ain't seen none yet. But it says they gathered themselves together against the sword of the righteous. And who is that? The Israelites. And condemn the innocent blood. But the Lord is my defense, and my power is my rock and refuge. And he shall bring upon them their own iniquity, and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yea, Yahweh, our power should cut them off, man. So there's only going to be a certain time that Esau is going to be able to do his wickedness, and the Most High is going to chop him off at the knees, man. Because, I mean, it's to the point now that if he doesn't come back and stop this devil, the scriptures say no flesh should be saved, you know? So going to this article, it says White House considers suspending habeas corpus. Trump advisor Steve Miller says. And he's a devil. It said, I can listen to it. Can I listen
White
to
House considering suspending habeas
Let's listen to
corpus. Trump advisor Stephen Miller says. By Alan Cohn, May 9th, UPI. The Trump administration is actively looking at suspending the writ of habeas corpus, which is the right to challenge the legality of a person's detention by the government. White House senior advisor Stephen Miller said Friday. Outside the White House, the deputy chief of staff for policy was asked by a reporter whether President Donald Trump was considering suspending the writ of habeas corpus to deal with illegal immigration in the United States.
Right. Now, why do you need to suspend that to deal with illegal immigration? Because I believe in some aspects of the Constitution or some type of something I was reading a little while ago. They was basically stating that even if they are within the confinement of the U.S. border, they still are subjected until some way, somehow you still have to deal with them. Not as far as as citizens' rights, but at the same time, you still have to deal with them with some type of, how can I say it? You have to deal with them with some type of decency. You know, even if they're within the United States borders, they are to still be treated as somewhat of a citizen. But then again, you got him deporting so-called immigrants, which technically this is their land anyway. But you have him dealing with them, you know, like, hey, that dude Tom Homan said, he said, look, we don't give a damn if you do have residency here. We getting you and your children up out of here. So get the hell out. You know, this is why they're dispatching troops down to the border now, you know. But basically, Trump is deporting people that actually got citizenship here. You know what I'm saying? So, like Apostle Tara said, he's declared himself a king. He's like a dictator. Okay, he's totally operating out of the jurisdiction, beyond the jurisdiction of a president, which is the head of a corporation. I mean, he's defying judges. He's defying our lawyers, you know, the Supreme Court. He's telling them, like, look, man, I'm not trying to hear shit y'all got to say. Okay, we need to get these niggas up out of here. Because these devils hate our people, man. But Jake seemed to not understand the concept of what they're dealing with. You see, that's why it says here, once again, reading it, it says, should the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frame mischief by law? All right. And the answer is no. OK, we're not supposed to have any dealings with these Edomites. But unfortunately, we live in a kingdom that's ran by Esau. So we have to have some type of contact with them. But overall, we're not supposed to give in to this system, man. OK, use the world as not being abusing it. You know, so we can't bow down to this shit, bro. This is a wicked, and this is draconianism, you know, draconian laws or totalitarianism. You know, this is a total dystopian type society, and you can see exactly where it's heading to. All right, Isaiah 10:1, and it reads, it says, "Woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, and woe is destruction, and the decree is a law, that right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless," man. So this goes into Jake not having rights. You see, because as a collective, we have a right to this earth because this is our world. But under this devil, he's gatekeeping. So he's coming up with certain laws and shit like that to totally eliminate our people. And when Jacob's trouble is official, hey, this devil is going to come down with great wrath, man. Okay? But in order for this to go forth, there's going to have to be some type of attack or some type of false flag or some type of emergency, because during the time of an emergency, they can't suspend habeas corpus. And he's trying to figure that shit out, man. Okay, well, we need to get these people out of our society, man. Get them back, right?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion, Miller said. So it's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. Miller said judges should stop blocking the deportation of undocumented immigrants in cases in which those people are exercising habeas writs. One Democratic aide told The Hill that Stephen Miller is not a lawyer, but he plays an expletive one on TV. No one in their right mind would take his advice seriously, but sanity is in short supply in this administration. The U.S. Constitution, in Article 1, Section 9 reads, "The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it." The writ of habeas corpus has been suspended only 4 times, according to the National Constitution Center. They were during the Civil War from 1861 to 1865, when parts of South Carolina was overrun by the Ku Klux Klan during Reconstruction in 1871 to 1872, when 2 provinces in the Philippines were under unrest in 1905, and in Hawaii after the bombing at Pearl Harbor in 1941. Supreme Court Associate Justice Amy Coney Barrett and attorney Neil Katyal in 2017 wrote the Constitution does not specify which branch of government has the authority to suspend the privilege of the writ, but most agree that only Congress can do it. On April 7th, the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, allowed deportations of alleged members of Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang to El Salvador based on the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. But the justices ruled that the government must give deportees reasonable time to challenge their removal in court before being deported. The 1798 Alien Enemies Act has been used 3 times during wars. Administration officials didn't adhere to an oral order from U.S. District Judge James Boasberg in March to turn around or halt flights of Venezuelan migrants headed to the Salvadoran prison. On Wednesday, U.S. District Court Judge Brian Murphy in Massachusetts said deporting a group of migrants overseas, possibly to Libya and Saudi Arabia, would violate court orders prohibiting the government from shipping deportees to a third country. Murphy was appointed by President Joe Biden. Also, students, including Rumeysa Ozturk at Tufts and Mahmoud Khalil at Columbia, have challenged their detention. Ozturk on Friday was granted bail by District Judge William Sessions in Vermont, appointed by President Barack Obama. Miller told reporters the Immigration and Nationality Act in 1965 takes away jurisdiction by the judicial branch over immigration cases. The courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. The courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes, Miller said. Some men deported said they're not members of gangs. If Donald Trump can sweep non-citizens off the street and fly them to a torturer's prison in El Salvador with no due process, he can do it to citizens too. Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, said last week, "Because if there is no due process, no fair hearing, you have no opportunity to object."
Yep, and that's what they want to do. When they suspend that, there's no due process. They can hold you indefinitely. So let's just say if a civil war broke out in America and all hell broke loose and you had a threat of terrorism in America, which technically, everybody's under surveillance, where they justify those the boogeyman terms. But hey, let's just say if he decides to start grabbing brothers up and there's no habeas corpus, he can just take you to an off-site somewhere and they'll lock your ass and they'll lose you in there. They can do whatever they want to do to you, man. And that's the plan. That's the goal. He wants to eliminate our people, man. Okay, Trump's hatred for the Israelites is going to be on the highest top tier, especially if the Lord allows him to go forth with this habeas corpus shit and the collapsing of this dollar and the institution of the mark of the beast, you better believe that he's gonna. The Lord said, "Hey, a cruel Lord will be over thee." Okay, this dude is taking away federal funding. He's laid people. Hey, he's took away jobs. This dude is cut programs. Hey, this dude. Hey, they called him Trump 2.0. Okay, the man is the devil, like we've been telling you, stupid niggas out there, man. All right. But anyway, let's go down to Isaiah 10, and I'm gonna start at verses. It says here, 5. It says, "O Assyrian, the rod of my anger, and the staff of their hand is my indignation." That staff is that power, that rulership. It says, "I will send them against the hypocritical nation and against the people of my wrath when I give him a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets," man. So he's going to give this devil the green light to roll on you jakes, man. Okay, while you jakes are playing games and, you think shit is sweet. You black women out there, you turning up and, you twerking and all this other bullshit that you're doing. Hey, eventually, Yahweh Shimi Hawashai is going to give this man a charge to take the spoil. And they're going to come in your neighborhoods, man, and they're going to tart you off into these concentration camps. And a lot of you, they just going to unalive on the spot, man. All right? And that's going to be the judgment of the 2/3. Because, hey, the Yahweh Shimi Hawashai is tired of playing around with you niggas, man. So he's going to use this devil to get at you people. It's just point blank, period. Because the Lord is in control. This is the sword of the Lord. This is the hand of Yahweh Shimi Hawashai, man. Let's go to Ezekiel, the 21st chapter. And I'm gonna start at verses 9-8. And it says, "And again the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophecy and say, Thus says Yahweh, a sword is sharpened and is also furbished." Okay. It says it is sharpened to make a sword slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. It says, should we then make mirth? Because the average talk of a nigga right now is what they getting ready to turn up for the summer. Oh, yeah, we got to go on vacation. And not so much as just because, the terrorists are kicking everybody's ass. And Jake is like, damn, But even then, Jake is trying to get through or weather the storm so they can get back to the sunny days. Jake trying to get back to 2019. That way they can go and turn up and twerk on top of cars and just be just a bunch of base degenerates, man. This is what niggas want to do. This is their whole purpose of existence, is to create mischief. That's why it says, should we then can make mirth? It says, "It contendeth the rod of my son as every tree, as he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened and is furbished, and it is given into the hand of the slayer." Okay? And who is the slayer? The slayer is this so-called white man, this Edomite, man. All right? This damn demon. This damn demon. He's the slayer. And it says, "Cry and howl, son of man, for it should be upon my people, and it should be upon the princes of Israel. Terrors by reason, and the sword should be upon my people. Smite therefore upon the thigh." So the Lord is going to bring the tenets of this Edomite devil upon you, man, because you're playing games. So he's looking for every justifiable means in order to suspend certain legality functions to be able to justifiably roll on you. But even if they can't find a reason, they will create a reason. Like when Nero burnt down parts of Rome, hey, that was considered a false flag. And who did he do? He blamed it on the Israelites, man, which justified on him persecuting Israelites. So it's the same playbook, different time frame, right? Revelation 12. And it says here, "Therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. But woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down to you having great wrath, because he knoweth he have a short time." So he's in crunch time. He's like, look, man, the Lord is tapping him on the shoulder like, look, man, you got to get this shit cracking. All right, you can't draw or prolong your kingdom. And this is a good thing, because the minute he does this is when Yahweh Shimi Hawashai is going to send Michael the archangel. Like it tells us in Daniel, the 12th chapter, it says at that time Michael shall stand up, okay, the prince of thy people. So, hey, Yahweh Shimi Hawashai is going to send the highest angel in the armies under Yahushai to come and be a defense unto his elect. But everybody else is going to get straight up steamrolled, man, because this is the type of evil that this man is coming with. Revelation 2, and I'm going to start at verses 10. It says, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation." The Lord said he's going to keep us from the hour of temptation. All right. It says, which should come upon the whole world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. Right. And that's going to be in the form of that microchip. Okay, Revelation 2:10, it says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer, but behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. It says, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And in this time frame, this is when everything is going to be on the books. Everything that they're going to do is going to be legal. Okay, there's no trial. There's no due process. If you get accused of being a threat to this man's system, then they can just roll on you and say, well, look, we suspect you of this and this and that. We've been keeping a dossier on you, and you appear to be a threat to the United States of America and the citizens of Babylon. And they can say that, and they can hold you indefinitely. All right. And this is why they're looking for workarounds. So this thing is deadly serious, man. This is not nothing to take lightly. Revelation 16, not Revelation 16, second address 16. And I'm going to start at verses 70. It says, for there should be in great place, in every place, and in the next city is a great insurrection upon those that fear Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and they should be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying them that fear the Lord. Right. Because like I mentioned, they're going to go door to door. A lot of you jakes, they just going to unalive. Grab up the women, grape the women, separate the children. They're going to unalive the men, and they're going to put the women in detention centers, man. Some of you men too. And a lot of you Israelites as well that's playing games with the Lord. But it says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then they should be known who are my chosen, and they should be tried as gold in the fire. So, yeah, we coming into some heavy, heavy times, man. All right, so with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Lord's will, you were edified. Until the next lesson. Shalom.